Hey everyone, welcome to the Tom's Hardware Podcast for January 24th, 2023. As always, I'm Tom's Hardware Editor-in-Chief, Abram Pelch. I'm joined by Associate Editor Les Pounder, Raspberry Pi expert Ash Hill, and we have Mike Horne and Brian Corteil, two big names in the Raspberry Pi community. I think Brian's connection cut off, but I'm sure he'll be back. He is back. To talk about the return of Raspberry Pi jams, of Raspberry jams. So, first of all, thank you so much for joining us today, guys.
No problem. Thanks for asking us.
So,
yeah, it's a pleasure.
For folks that aren't familiar, does one of you want to explain what a Raspberry jam is?
Yeah, I don't mind a thing. I can if you like. It's not a thing. So a Raspberry Pi Jam is basically a community meeting of enthusiasts who are interested in Raspberry Pi and sharing projects. And each jam is a little bit different than any other. So, for example, the Cambridge Raspberry Pi Jam, CamJam, has workshops, talks, and show and tell, and sometimes has a place for vendors to sell Pi stuff. But you can also have a jam that just meets up in, say, a library, and people get together to chat about things to do with Pi. So they vary a great deal, but it's always the aim to normally to pass on, teach kids about programming and STEM type stuff.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. So this is the first official jam that there's been since COVID. Is that right?
Yep, that's right. Yep, we had one that was almost organised just before the pandemic, and that we had to pull that one. And now Brian's been kind enough to find out if MakeSpace can host one, and we're back on there.
That's excellent news. I mean, we've had 2 years, we've had a drought, haven't we, with no jams pretty much going on. I know in the UK especially, just been nothing.
I think it's more like 3 years, right?
True. I think I skipped over a year then, didn't I?
Yeah.
Wishfully.
Time flew by.
Yeah. But yeah, it's the jams before COVID hit. They were a hotbed of where you could learn new skills, and it wasn't just a case of you go there, you play with pies, and that's it. You go away after spending money. You were learning real skills while you were there, and that was one of the beauties of a jam.
Yeah, no question. And there's just something about being there, so in person with people. So yeah, it's. I mean, I think it's great. I feel bad because right before the pandemic, there was a jam in my area, and my son and I were supposed to go, and something came up, and I was like, "Oh, we'll just go to the next jam."
Oh.
So I'm hoping that jams come back here to America, particularly the New York area where I live, because I would love to go. I mean, going to these types of events really is really inspiring. Like when I took my son to Maker Faire last year, he had a great time, but I wish it was a bit more focused, because the Maker Faire was not like Raspberry Jam would be so much better, because Maker Faire was just like a whole bunch of tables of different things, and most of them were not like, oh, hey, we're going to help you learn how to improve your programming skills or do something with a Pi. It was just like a whole bunch of different groups, and each one of them just sort of wanted to show off what they are doing, versus having some type of a collaborative group where you can go and you can talk to people and get ideas and whatever, was more of an exposition than a true like interactive learning experience. So
yeah, and the differing formats is interesting as well, because you'll have some that are sit down lessons, you have some that are just tables full of gear and people play with that. You'll have some where in a library, especially where they just have like machines dotted around, and the kids are interacting with the machines, but also interacting with the services of the library as well, which is important. And it's just good to see all these different jams. There isn't a set way of doing things. There isn't something that's mandated to say you must do X, Y, Z. It's a case of it's a community-led event, and the community is doing it for the community. And it all stems from like the bar camps and the young conferences of old. I'm showing me age here now, where you just turned up and did something. And that was fantastic. And it's good to see the jams are carrying on that tradition.
Yeah.
I think it's really good for CamJam that Brian's managed to make space for it, because it means that the attendees, they can do the pie stuff and they can see what other projects people have got, but they can also be exposed to the laser cutting and the 3D printing and the real makery stuff that Makespace does so well.
Definitely. So Brian, what are you going to offer for the return jam? What are people going to be playing with?
So on the so we plan to do this like the standard CamJam format. So we will have some talks. I've secured a talk from one of the gentlemen from the Raspberry Pi Foundation. He's known as Mr. C. He's a great educator. I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen him whip up a room of kids. Well, actually, a hall of kids, 200 kids, into a frenzy and building an enthusiasm about making and programming. So that should be great. And he's been happy enough to say that he'll run a couple of workshops for us. So he's going to be doing provisionally a workshop on machine intelligence with the Raspberry Pi, and a yet to be discussed one with the Pico. And then I can say that I'm a proud father on the next one. So one of the other workshops is going to be a flying disc workshop, which was created by Billy, my eldest son, and he's going to be running that with his brother, which I think is great. Is that it's like kids will be teaching kids about programming and basic electronics. And then
awesome.
So I've mentioned the talk. So then we'll have a show and tell area, so where people from the community can show off their projects, and so hopefully inspire other people. I'm hoping with this jam that to get a little bit more of the kids involved. So some of the local code clubs, Coder Jojos, to be able to come along and show off some of their projects. Also, so like a lot of jams are fairly tight on everything has to be created by a Raspberry Pi. I'm hoping that would be a little bit more welcoming to other the small boards, so Arduinos, microbits and stuff like that, to show that being more about showing that we all a community and we basically using the same tools to create our stuffs. And then on the Makespace side of it is that we're planning to have demonstrations and things on the 3D printers and the laser cutters, and definitely on the laser cutter we'll be doing so that somebody can come along and actually create and burn a key ring in front of them. We might have to get some steps so the little kids can see the laser cut doing its business, but get some hands-on things. And if this jam goes on well, I'm hoping that the next one, if we hold it again at Makespace, we'll be able to have more of a maker theme and get people to do other things. Oh, and one more thing that hopefully we'll be doing is to be able to do a soldering 101, so that people will be able to solder up a badge as well. So
that's nifty.
So quite a lot. Traditionally, it's the CamJam's always been one of the larger Raspberry Pi jams.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that we can get somewhere near to to that sort of size and stuff like that. But so we should aiming for about four workshops, 3 or 4 talks, and maybe one of the talks to do the lightning talk type of format if we can get enough interest, so people can just come and talk about something for 5-10 minutes rather than having to do like a full 30-minute talk with slides and questions and all that scary stuff.
Is there anything new about this upcoming jam that really sets it apart from ones that you've had in the past? Other than all the new stuff that people are showing off, of course.
I don't think there's been a jam so close to the city centre of Cambridge, so that means it puts the Raspberry Pi shop in a very dangerous proximity to.
That can get expensive.
Yeah, to the jam. But I think really the most standout thing that would be is that it's just a different venue. If the other venues have been very university corporate type of venues, where Makespace is definitely not that. So I think it's been a different venue, and it also gives the opportunity for the jam to carry on a little bit outside of the day, because there's so many bars and restaurants and places to eat around there that the conversations in theory could be taken on and carried on, and more social than other jams, because the other locations have been a little bit on the remote side from that. So the pros and cons is that the parking's not great in Cambridge. Is one of the cons, and that being 5 minutes away from the Raspberry Pi shop. But I think its location is a pro, and it could make an interesting interesting venue from the other sites.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I like what you're saying as well about the mix of having the maker element to it. So traditionally jams have been Raspberry Pi led. Now it's not exclusively Pi. You can bring an Arduino, bring a microbit, bring whatever you want to it. But mixing the maker element to it now makes it more interesting, because the kids are not just going to see, this wonderful single board computer or, their microcontroller. They're going to see that there's bigger toys to play with. There's bigger things that they can learn and new skills they can learn. And especially the laser cutter. Now, obviously lasers are dangerous. Don't look directly at the laser with the remaining eye. We all know that joke. But they're great fun to use because they're so simple. It's a case of it's a 2D representation. Stick it on a plate, cut it, there you go, done. And kids can do that, and it's quick. It's 5 minutes to do it, and they learn a new skill.
I like that there's also an opportunity to see these different boards, because it helps drill in the overlap of electronics in general. Like, you can know how to do something on a Pi, but if you can do that same thing on an Arduino or an Odroid or something else, then you've got a fundamental understanding that you can carry with you to different machines.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it doesn't really matter what device you're using. Sometimes you should use the device that is correct for the project. So, sometimes you use a Pico, but sometimes you use an Arduino that's got a lot more inputs on it, for instance, just because that's what you need at the time.
Yeah, right tool for the job, as Montgomery Scott would say in Star Trek.
Yeah, definitely.
Or these days, whichever tool you can get a hold of.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of an issue. That's kind of an issue right now, right? Is, I mean, when we had the last Pi Jam, I don't even think Pico existed. So how much of the Jam do you think will be focused on RP2040 products or RP2040 use?
Sorry, Brian, go.
So I don't know. So I have a few projects that I've created with the RP2040. I'm sure other makers as well. So if there's a tendency for old projects to be brought along as well, so I'll maybe say a 70-30 split, but I really can't guess. It's the telling will be on the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to see a lot of representation from the 2040, just because it is so available. It's easily pluggable into other things to program them with. It's very capable board if that's what you want. It'd just be nice if the normal Pi would come back again.
Is there going to be coverage, like real-time coverage of like anybody going to walk through with the live stream, or maybe a few people?
So it's possible. I'm not 100% promising yet, but hopefully we'll be able to live stream the talks.
Cool.
So and if we can persuade somebody to walk around with a mobile phone, we might be able to do sort of like some something from the from sort of like the show and tell.
Yeah.
Thing, but it's really don't want it to be. It's sort of like want it to feel as an in-person event rather than a virtual event. So to get that back, but I can't see why we can't have the talks being streamed and it would be nice to like just have a quick walk through the show and tell.
It'd be neat to see what it looks like, because there's makers like me in the middle of nowhere, and the closest I'm going to get to a jam is if I go thousands of miles to a big city, and that's the best I'm going to get.
I think we can probably arrange to, because our current video that shows what a jam looks like is very, very old. It's like 2014 or something.
That is.
Oh wow!
So it'd be nice to get some footage of sort of newer projects and talks in the make place, and that kind of thing. Yeah. So I'll certainly be taking my camera along and getting some footage and putting it together.
I'd love to see what it looks like.
That's awesome. So when is it going to be the next jam?
So it's the 22nd of April, which is a Saturday. It's in between all the bank holidays in April, all the UK bank holidays. We plan to open the doors at 10:30, and we'll be going on open to like the general public up until 4:30, so 6 hours. But it will be a ticketed event, so we can have some control of numbers and know coming along. So, and we will be charging a small fee just to help with the running costs of the jam.
That's fair enough. Yeah.
But a small fee. But we don't want to stop that from anybody from attending if they they feel they can't afford that. If they get in contact with us, we'll get something sorted. We also want to make the jam accessible to everybody. So we have policies with that in mind, and we want to be as helpful and accommodating as we can.
That's sweet. That is the spirit of open source hardware, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very true. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, are you going to have any particular, you were talking about lectures or whatever, are you going to have any particular kind of hands-on activities for people or for kids who come?
Yeah, so a lot of the show and tell things are saying a lot of people make that sort of stuff interactive, so you can come along and have like a Pi that's showing old retro video games, or I don't know, maybe controlling some a robot, and I'm actually hoping to have my if I can find somebody to look after it, because I imagine I'm going to be busy throughout the day. My Zoetrope project up and running.
That's a great project.
That one's cool.
So
and of course, there's workshops going on as well, which are going to be great, and they'll appeal to kids.
Yeah, very true.
Hopefully
there'll be a scratch workshop somewhere that the kids can get involved with. That always goes down a treat when they want to make the cat make silly noises.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of, and this, maybe you guys have advice, how I could do. I've been talking to this group that does that kind of helps bridge the digital divide and get tech into the hands of kids who wouldn't otherwise have it. And I've been talking to them about doing, an event with a few kids. We talked about an event of building PCs, which is nice, but I was trying to figure out how one might actually make like a Pico themed event for like half a dozen kids, and like what kind of, if you wanted something that you could do in an hour or two, like what would be good first project for kids? What would you need? Like what, is there any course material out there that's good to use? Like, what would you get them? Like a Pico that has pins on it and a breadboard and some LEDs. Like what would you, if you wanted to show somebody like, hey, here's here's what it's like, programming in MicroPython, CircuitPython, whatever. What would you do as your sort of first step?
Personally, I've just seen actually on the Pi Hut's website, they've got a little starter kit that's got a Pico in it, a breadboard, some LEDs. It's quite cheap, and they've got material that goes along with it to make the LEDs light up and that sort of thing. And I think kids do like lighting up LEDs, and the nice thing about doing that simple stuff is that they tend to go off piste, and they tend to say, "Oh right, I can do that. What happens now? What else can I do with it?" And yeah, you can have a set of worksheets that do the traffic light system, which is what the CamJam EduKit started out with. But sometimes kids just want to have a play, and they want to see, right, now that I've got the one LED showing, can I get two? What sequences can I do with them? Alternatively, I'm sure Billy would be up to turning his flying disc workshop into something like that. Brian?
Oh yeah, the flying disc workshop is really engaged kids, because it's got because it launches the flying disc up into the air. So, but I've seen when we've done the workshops in other places, kids have put a second motor on, so they're launching two of the discs, or having it launched so it launches with a button and stuff like that. So most simple starting projects can be expanded out and increase, and the kids' imagination normally trump mine every time.
You're always waiting for them to say, "What if we did this?"
Yeah,
can we do that? And it's like you turn it around to them and you say to them, "Yeah, what if we did do that? How would you do it?" And get them to really think about what the possibilities are with doing that kind of thing. And if you can make a motor spin to launch a disc up into the air, what else can you do with a motor?
I find robotics to be quite a good starting thing if it can. But the problem is it's normally it's the length of time and to get involved. I've never really seen so like a simple Scratch type block interface to be able to get a robotics moving quickly. It always seems to be wanting a higher, sort of like a higher, or sorry, no, not a higher language, a lower language to be used, and the actual construction side can take a bit of time as well. So it's difficult, and I've also seen kids that they want to play with the robots and play with the video games and stuff like that, but they're not always interested in taking that next step further. But saying, hopefully you get that one kid in 10 who's interested and wants to see how it works, wants to know that, and that's the bit that makes, when you're showing off and doing this sort of stuff, makes it worthwhile.
Yeah, no question. So speaking of things that are worthwhile to learn, Les, you've been working with something that allows you to turn your Raspberry Pi into a remote camera.
I have indeed, yes. So this stems back to a long, long time ago, not in a galaxy far, far away for copyright reasons.
Huh.
It also opens about 2 blue dots. So blue dots is a tool to control robots over a Bluetooth connection from your Android phone or an Android device. Created by Martin O'Hanlon, who works for Raspberry Pi Foundation and who I've known since it all started. It's a cool little tool. So it just is a blue dot. There is my phone. There is a blue dot. And
This
you
is
can
true.
see on this, yeah, that's it. It is blue. That blue dot is Bluetooth to my Raspberry Pi 4, which is underneath the camera. And I've got some code running in the background on Funny, which is really just saying, okay, I'm waiting for this guy to press the button and then I'll start the camera. And in front of me, I've got one of the new camera module 3s. So I'm going to press the blue button and you'll see me twice, so don't be scared.
Oh, hey. It's not that frightening.
It is. So that's now taken a photograph. I've captured an image to the SD card. It's called PyCam 1. And every time I press this blue button now, it's going to overwrite the image, but it's a new photograph every time, and it's all remote. And it's just so simple. The actual code to run Blue Dot, it just says, okay, import the library, create an object, so Blue Dot, and then say, okay, Blue Dot, wait for someone to press the button. And when you do, run a function called take picture, and done. That's it. It's so simple. It does get a bit more advanced. You can have proportional control. So if I go to the proper big camera so you can see me now. So this isn't going to work now, so it's not set up, but the distance from the center to the outer edge of the circle denotes how fast you could control the motors of a robot. So the values go from 0 to 1, and they're float values, so it's 0.1, 0.2, etc. You could then feed that into a PWM script for a motor controller to have the motors go forward, so pressing it this way like that. So forward, full power, half power, slow. Then go, left, right. This is really hard on camera now. And go backwards, and it's all proportional speed. Or if you want just a standard joypad interface, you can change Blue Dot into a joypad. So it has directional control and buttons. And it's all working via Bluetooth. And it's just an app on the App Store that Martin created that works with his Python library. And it's awesome. It's all free.
That's
and
one of the most versatile circles I've ever seen.
It's fantastic.
It's great. I've used it to write controllers for robots. It's simple. It's good. It's just a pity there isn't an iOS version.
Very true. Very true.
It's only limit. It's just on Android. But yeah, it's a great piece of software. Great library.
Yeah, but why would anyone want to use Apple products? Sorry. So speaking of things that we love, there's some projects that people can be doing ahead of Valentine's Day, which is just in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, I thought now would be a good time to get those together, because if you want to make something for Valentine's Day, it helps to have your project in mind before Valentine's Day. So I had 3 things in mind that you can get for your lover who's super into Raspberry Pi, or maybe they're not into Pi and you just want to make them something special. So these are projects that you can make at home. They're really easy, and a lot of them you don't have to have like a Raspberry Pi 4B, because good luck finding one. That you can use whatever Pi you have on hand or whatever you can get a hold of. The first thing I wanted to show you is this, because we have a guide on how to make it at Tom's Hardware, but a Raspberry Pi powered digital picture frame. So you can take all these lovely pictures of you and your sweetie or your cats or your family or nonsense you've gotten into over the year and create a digital picture frame to rotate through all of those lovely pictures. This particular guide uses a touch screen, but you don't have to have a touch screen. You can, if you just have a simple LCD screen, that'll work. Or maybe you want to use, what is it called? The new panel that you picked up, Avram. The little e-ink display with the colors.
Oh, yes, the inky frame.
Yeah, you can use an inky frame. You can really get creative with these. And it's like what we were saying earlier about the Raspberry Pi Jam. Like, once you know these fundamental concepts and you have an idea of the project, you can build it with all kinds of things. But look through our guide to see how you could build it and then modify it to work for you. That's the easiest thing about these, is you can really customize all of them. So yeah, digital picture frame. That one seems pretty straightforward. Also makes a good holiday gift for family members. The other one I wanted to show you guys. I love this. It's just a Raspberry Pi music box because back in the day, we would make mixtapes for our loved ones or then mix CDs. And then when I was in high school, I got a couple of flash drives that had songs and the MP3s on it. That like, here, put this on your iPod. And now you could make your own jukebox or like a music box, put a Raspberry Pi in it, hit a button, and cycle through all of those lovely songs that just remind you of the one you love. But let's say you don't really want to build something for your Raspberry Pi lover. You want to get them something cool. The best thing that you can get them is Raspberry Pi. I don't care what kind it is. They're all hard to get a hold of right now, except, the RP2040 boards are pretty easy to come by. If you can find your loved one a Raspberry Pi 4 Model B, they're going to be there for life, I promise. They will remember that gift.
All the effort you spend just hunting down that elusive Pi 4.
Yeah.
Like a box of milk tray just offered to the one that you love.
Yeah. Forget the diamond ring.
Yeah. Well, I'll see if I can figure out which of those would be good for my which of those I could give to my daughter, because her birthday is the day after Valentine's. So so that's what we concentrate on Valentine's. So Mike, I understand there for folks, we're almost out of time, but for folks who are interested in attending Raspberry Pi Jam, what are the upcoming jams they should know about?
So on the 22nd of April, we've got CamJam. Earlier than that, we've got 2 on the 18th of February. Northern Ireland Raspberry Jam in Belfast is on the 18th, and so is Southend, who are doing a light lab Raspberry Jam. So it will be all things blinky and lights everywhere, and that's down in Southend on Sea in East England.
And if folks want to know what location these are in, what's the best place for them to go?
That's a very good question. The Raspberry Pi Foundation used to have a map, but they don't seem to have that anymore, which is a real shame.
Yeah, I see it on the site, but it doesn't look like it has anything. It's up to date.
Yeah. Best place to be honest is still Twitter at the moment. There's some traffic on Mastodon as well, to do with jams. I try and retweet it. I'm at Racantha on Twitter, so I try and retweet every jam that comes along. So it's really just a case of keeping your eye out.
Yeah, it's also the hashtag RJam and RPiJam that you can keep an eye on Twitter.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us and getting the word out about Pi Jams, which are awesome. Anytime we have the chance to get together with other folks and learn about and talk about Pi and our other maker projects is so important. We'll be talking, as always, next with some new special guests next week at this time, which is always Tuesdays at 2 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. UK time, and we will see you all then. Bye, everyone.